Ladies and gentlemen, Money Mike is at it again with this time lending a high school, that's right, folks, a high school QB recruit. Brock Glenn is flipped from Ohio State. All that more on today's edition of Locked On Seminoles. Let's ride.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to another edition of Locked On Seminole. What's up, everybody? Hopefully you're all having a happy Thanksgiving week. And today in the stream yard, I'm joined by my compatriot, Mr. David Wise. Davey, what's going on, my guy?
Yeah, Florida.
Yep. As always, folks, it is Florida week, so we're going to be doing that later on throughout the week. We also have Brandon Olson from the Locked On Gators podcast coming on. I think tomorrow night we'll drop that later on the week during your Thanksgiving when you're trying to recover from all the goodness you're eating. But Dave, we're not dedicating the show to Gators just yet because we have much more important, much more better, and much more relatable news for FSU. Mr. Brock Glenn, the Elite 11 tryout candidate, the Memphis quarterback, formerly of Ohio State, flips his commitment over to Florida State. Dave, what do you make of this, and what do you make of this as a sign of things to come for Florida State?
Well, Drake, this is really reassuring news to me because we had talked recently about the thing we always said about recruiting was you had to do it on the field first. That's why the recruiting hasn't been there, right? Mm-hmm. And there were fears, I think, that lingered in a lot of fans' minds about, can Mike Norvell do it on the recruiting trail? Like, obviously, he's getting it done on the field, so he can do it there, but can he do it on the trail even with the success and the proof of concept? Well, not that one player changes that, but the quarterback is the most important position on the field. And the ability to recruit a quarterback or the inability to recruit a quarterback has screwed Florida State up for a while now, especially at the high school level. Like, you can rely on transfers all you want, but you got to have these high school quarterbacks in the system. Obviously, Jordan Travis is, I think, more of an exception to the rule. But it is extremely encouraging to see Mike Norvell able to not only grab a quarterback, but grab a, depending on where you look, top 20 nationally quarterback who obviously was committed to a program that the fact that they had gave him a committable offer and accepted his commitment means that he's an Ohio State quality quarterback. And based on their track record recently, I want all the Ohio State quality quarterbacks I can get my hands on.
Yeah, CJ Stroud, Justin Fields, like it's a long line of solid QBs that go over to Columbus and actually make it to the NFL. And the jury's still on Justin Fields has been having a decent past 4 weeks, but overall, Ohio State showcased that they're able to land top-tier QBs who excel at the college level and also develop them moving forward to the next level. Yep. And then Dave, I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to proof of concept. It's really hard to sell to these kids basically what is a proof of concept overall if you're only win 8 games in 2 years. But what have we been saying? The wins will definitely help it overall because the way we've been winning these games, you look at the wide receiver play. The wide receiver plays look immensely better from last season, and they're all eating. And you see a Hakeem Williams like, okay, you know what? I can now see myself in this system where I can actually get, work on my own numbers. I can develop as well. I can look at Johnny Wilson or Micah Pittman and see this is where I need to be. Same thing in Brock Glenn. He's seen how Jordan Travis has, after being here for 3 seasons, developing under Mike Norvell and also under this year with Tony Tokars, that he can also be eating in this offense. And now you see it someone with the running backs, maybe, potentially, Cedric Baxter Jr. from Texas might be able to look over to Treshaun Warren, Trey Benson, how they're eating. So overall, the proof of concept is showcasing on the field with the talent level. And now, like you were saying, Mike is improving on the field. If he's able to bring in the talent from the high school level onto the field, that just is basically the world overall is his oyster, so to speak, when it comes to high school football recruiting.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit of a snowball effect in terms of quarterback recruiting, where if you don't have a quarterback in the class, or you're not like positive that you have that next guy on your roster, like Clemson does with Klubnik, I think it's harder to recruit at least some of the offensive skill positions. Like, once you've landed a blue chip quarterback in the class, I think it's a lot easier to sell the continued vision of what you're doing. Not because, like, the question right now is, what is it after Jordan Travis? We saw a little bit of AJ Duffy. We've seen, a good bit of Tate, but I don't think the answer to that question is obvious or known yet. So to be able to stockpile talent and to know that we're going to have some blue chip options between AJ Duffy and now between Brock Glenn, I think that makes it a lot easier to sell the entire rest of the recruiting class, especially on the offensive side of the ball. It feels like an awful long time since the whole Chris Parson thing went down. And I think that left a sour taste, especially coming out on the heels of Travis Hunter in a lot of people's mouths. So let the healing process begin. We can now watch games without worrying, when are we going to blow it? When are we going to blow it? When's old Florida State going to show back up? I think those days are gone. And we'll get to that when we talk about the game this past weekend. But I think the last piece of the puzzle for Florida State fans is, can we get back to recruiting high enough of a level at the high school ranks that we're not relying on transfers every single year to be able to field a competitive football team? And it feels like we're getting closer to that.
I agree with that, but I do think that basically, I know a lot of people say you can't rely on the transfer portal. Basically, you can't make a living in there. I think with the way recruiting setting up now, especially with NIL as well, I think that basically a lot more younger kids, probably the first year or second year players going to enter the portal with 2 years of eligibility remaining. So I do think that basically you're going to actually be able to rely a little bit more. You won't get the Jared Verses or the Jermaine Johnson that have 1 year left, but just maybe there are several, FSU ghosts of recruiting past that might hit the portal, actually maybe coming this way, probably December and January. But before I forget, I do want to ask you this question regarding Brock Glenn.
Yeah.
We did not expect probably to land a high school QB. I personally thought that we would be landing Emory Williams, the last of Miami's quarterback recruits after Jaden Rashad flipped to Florida. What do you make of Brock Glenn actually committing as a high schooler for the entire room as a whole? Does that give you any indication that maybe Jordan Travis is coming back for one more season? Do you think this alters the stats plans for grabbing a transfer portal QB if he does return back? What do you think actually this kind of tells you, like foreshadowing wise, does this do for the QB room?
It tells me absolutely nothing about what Jordan Travis's plans are, what the coaching staff thinks about him. I think you should strive to take, first of all, when you have a blue chip quarterback knocking down your door, 4 or 5 star quarterback, you should be accepting them unless you literally do not have room on the roster, especially when you're not at a position where you have a known quantity in the backups that you're sure is your guy for next year. And then he'll probably leave after that because he's so good. We're not yet in that position. Who knows? AJ Duffy may turn out to be that guy. We just don't know yet. And it would be irresponsible, if not reckless, of this coaching staff to continue the trend of literal insanity that the prior coaching staffs did of not recruiting high school quarterbacks and wondering why anything's wrong. So I don't make anything of this in terms of whether Jordan comes back or not. I don't expect Brock Glenn to play next year. So I don't think it has any impact. Like I don't think they took him because if Jordan's gone, maybe he's a viable starting option next year or anything like that.
Well, no, I'm mainly asking because, do you think this alters their, I guess approach, basically? Because right now, a lot of people assume that the staff wasn't going to be landing a high school QB. Do you think this basically kind of saves our conversation of Mike and the boys going to the portal, grabbing a QB, then having to explain to both Tate and AJ that we still don't think either of you are ready, and maybe kind of avoiding the awkward conversation of basically saying that neither of you two are ready, and then them thinking to themselves, maybe I gotta go somewhere else, because that kind of probably landing this kid kind of saves them from that conversation.
Well, I mean, look, if in the transfer portal, a elite quarterback shows up who, for whatever reason, really wants to be here in Tallahassee, I think you take him. We're not in a position where we can't afford to create strife in the quarterback room because we don't know exactly what we have. Like if Jordan leaves, I wouldn't fault the coaching staff for still going out and getting a transfer quarterback. I don't know enough about Tate, or I don't trust enough yet about Tate, and I certainly don't know enough about AJ to say, yeah, we're good. We don't need to, we don't need any other pieces in this room. We'll figure it out necessarily. So I think if Jordan leaves, this doesn't change my thought on maybe you still look to go get a transfer quarterback. And if Jordan stays, you'll have 4 scholarship quarterbacks on the roster. I think that's a good number. You go into the next year, assess the portal, assess the high school ranks. You don't have an elite kid coming to you from high school, you go back to the transfer portal. Bing, bang, boom. The staff is getting back to what Bobby liked to do, which is get a kid every class, redshirt him, let him sit under a good quarterback and learn to be the next good quarterback. And that's where we need to get back to if we're going to be elite again.
No, I mean, I completely agree with that. It's overall, I think that basically landing a high school QB kind of like, kind of weighs the concern down a little bit when it comes to staff of basically, because that is an awkward conversation to have because Tate's been in the system for what I think this right now is his third year going into his fourth year. If you go grab transfer portal, that's a difficult conversation to have. And sometimes it's a necessary conversation for both parties to have overall. Then you also have the same thing with AJ, who hasn't had the most, I guess, easiest time, transitioning over to the college, basically practicing every single day. And also, he didn't particularly play that much or has skill showcase at IMG his last season. So it's like it's something that helps out a lot. And also, this is why it's so important, like you said before, to land a QB from the high school ranks because it kind of helps you overall in the long run.
Yeah, Drake, it is a great thing to be getting blue chip quarterback commits or prospects to commit to us at all, much less leave Ohio State, leave the recruiting class of Ohio State to come do it. That is best case scenario. Every single time I'm going to be happy about that. And Drake, I would like you to tell our fine listeners about something else that should make them happy.
Well, it is Dave's favorite time of the month, of the week, of the day of the millennia. It is basically our friends over at Upside. Upside is today's title sponsor. Inflation has us all thinking about different ways to cut back. Myself personally, I've been going more towards the less the name brand kind of stuff, the grocery market. But whether it's driving less, dining out less, or buying less from the grocery store, we can all agree there's nothing fun about less. That's why I started using Upside. Upside is an incredible app for anyone who buys gas, groceries, or dines out. With Upside, I don't have to cut back because I get cash back on every purchase. Dave, you've been a big fan of Upside. Please let the folks know how exactly it works.
Yeah, guys, this is really easy. You open the app, you open the Get Upside app or Upside app, and if you're going to buy gas, check to see if that gas station or one close by is participating. If it is, it'll tell you how many cents per gallon it will give you in cash that you can easily redeem by basically any means. Venmo, I think Cash App, PayPal, gift cards. There's all kinds of easy ways to get your money. But the point is, unless you're driving an only electric car, you're going to buy the gas. Just open the app, get the free money. There's no such thing as free money except for this.
And free money, folks, is pretty damn dope. So, folks, download the free Upside app today and use promo code LOCKED, LOCKED, to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more by using promo code LOCKED with our friends over at Upside. Okay, Dave, we've discussed the Brock Glenn news. Shout out to hopefully we're able to keep him, committed till signing day. Hopefully be able to be the next one in a great line of Florida State quarterbacks. But there was a game this weekend. Basically, it was kind of a game. Our team showed up. I don't know much about the Louisiana Lafayette Ragin Cajuns, but FSU beat them down. What was the score? 49-17, I think was the final score. So, yeah. Dave, you watched the majority of this game. Please let the folks know how you felt overall watching it. Basically, did you take anything from this game overall, if there was anything to take from it?
Yeah, this was like watching a 7-on. It looked like Florida State just was clearly at every level, phase of the game, on a play-to-play basis over the course of the game, just dominant. And we didn't have to do anything fancy. We didn't, save for Micah Pittman. It looked like we were trying to avoid injuries.
He's okay, by the way. He's okay.
So we escaped pretty unscathed from that game. The final score of that game really was not indicative of how bad we beat them, because in the fourth quarter, we had like our 8th stringers in there on defense, and that's who they scored on. So congratulations, Louisiana. You could maybe make a competitive game against our scout team. But setting that aside, yeah, there just wasn't a whole lot to take away from me. Like, you had 10 guys catch the ball, you had 10 guys rush the ball. So clearly it was spread out. Nobody posted a ridiculous stat line. Jordan only threw 14 passes. Trey Benson 16 carries for 80 yards. It was just an all around solid effort on offense. It was in cruise control. Everything was automatic. We just did whatever we wanted, which, let's say this, to be at that point as a Florida State fan, like, there were probably still a few of us, not me, but a few of us watching that game thinking, is this a letdown game? Like, are we looking ahead to Florida? There is no looking ahead to Florida against the Louisiana team for this team. Clearly, this program is past that. The ability or the tendency to just play down to the level of competition or not be on let your C game be really bad. Like, we were on like an automatic B game. And to be back at that place for Florida State is a testament to how different everything is at every level under Mike Norvell from what it was previously. Like these kids were caring in a meaningless game against Louisiana, and they were trying their ass off, and they were just dominating play to play. That's as much as you could ask for from where we should be right now under Mike Norvell. And I have really nothing else to add to that from that game.
I mean, overall, doesn't it just feel nice to beat the living like teams that you're just supposed to overall?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's kind of like basically. I was mainly doing errands in the majority of this game. I had Dave, feeding me everything else. I was asking like, how someone look, how someone look, how someone look. But I mean, I watched the replay or the highlights or where you want to call them, and like it just did feel great. Like from start to finish, that it felt like there was nothing creative. There was no like exotic looks or anything like that. This felt more not like a look ahead game. I think you put it the right way, but I did feel like it looked a lot more like a preparation game because the head coach of Louisiana is from the coaching tree of one Billy Napier, who we're seeing next week. And you basically saw everyone got into it. I mean, Geno English, the TikTok sensation himself, actually did one series. He was 2 for 2 for 16 yards. We saw AJ Duffy throw his first TD pass, actually as a Florida State Seminole to Marcus and Douglas, who that was a great one-handed catch for the boy Big Biscuit. That was difficult as hell to crap. It was a decent throw. Great catch too overall. So just seeing basically how this team was for finally not like looking ahead, looking past someone or playing down to an opponent, it just feels like now it's all business. And also they're also in the business of having fun. Like I said last week after Syracuse, where they're smiling, they're having a good time. It just feels like FSU football, like I said before, is finally fun again.
Yeah, it is fun, and I don't want to say there was nothing to take away. Like, there are a few things worth shouting out in this game. I thought the young guys, a lot of them played a hell of a game. Like Josh Farmer, Pat Payton, Shaheem Brown, Rodney Hill, and obviously that throw from AJ Duffy. There were moments out of each of them that stood out. And I don't care that it's against Louisiana. Like, this has been a trend that these young guys have, I think, come along a lot faster in their roles and development than I thought, which again is a great indication of what these kids are taking away from practice and from the lessons of Norvell and his staff. You even had guys like Amari Gaynor out there busting their ass and flashing on a few plays. That it's great to see not just the young guys, but everyone on the team, including, I don't think Amari Gaynor's checked out. So I'm not implying that, but like, I can imagine why a kid like that might get checked out. So just to see him out there doing his thing was great to see. Another thing that's great to see, Malik McClain, like I've been confused at his lack of development at times. I thought he was going to be the breakout player of the year on offense for us. So to see him the last couple weeks kind of taking a step forward is really encouraging to see, because it's not just the transfers. Clearly the receiver room has been completely bolstered by all the transfers, but it's not just them. Like there's other guys making a jump here. I'm glad to see Malik McClain, I think, finally starting to develop a little bit. And aside from that, worth mentioning, another 250-yard rushing game. Just, I don't know how you stop the running game of Florida State. Just doesn't seem possible right now, especially when, like in this game, we were perfect in the red zone. Yet again, those issues kind of coming to an end. Like we questioned earlier in the year, is like Mike Norvell out thinking himself? I'm glad to see he took a step back and kind of did some evaluation and got things right, because the red zone offense, awesome to see. The coaches are paying attention. They're self-aware. They're looking to improve too. And that's exactly what the team's doing.
And also, folks, Louisiana's defense wasn't, piss poor. It was like a decent defense overall. And it's something like a majority of the defense that we've played across this 4-game stretch have actually been pretty decent defenses. So it's kind of nice to see that FSU has, I think, what's the outscoring now? I think it's like 170 points to around like 29 or something like that.
It's just a little.
It's a lot to a little, I think, is a better way to put it, like Dave just said. Before actually we go over to break, Dave, I did want to ask you did say that FSU rushed for over 200 yards. I think we had 251 yards on the ground overall.
Yep.
What did you make about Jordan Travis for the first time, I think, all season, basically actually utilizing his legs? Was that simply just basically what the game plan called for, or was that something basically to keep Billy Napier and defensive coordinator Pat Tony on his toes a little bit? Because he did rush for 5 different carries for 38 yards and 2 touchdowns overall.
I was surprised to see that, just because I thought you don't need to do anything other than just plain vanilla to blow this team out. And you probably didn't, but he was taking what the defense was giving him. Like, it didn't it didn't look like the runs were like necessarily forced or anything. He took what the defense gave him. And if anything, if that was intentional, like you said, I think it's funny to make Florida have to worry about something that we haven't really showed much of this year. Like, spend some practice time this week on putting a spy on Jordan Travis when really we may have no intention at all of doing that. So I don't know if it's the old okey doke to Florida, then great. And if not, good to see Jordan's legs are still there.
I'm going to see Jordan's leg there, especially because the guy that actually will be probably most responsible for spying Jordan is their star linebacker, Ventrell Miller, who actually potentially might be missing the first half of the game due to a targeting penalty against Vanderbilt in the very confusing, but I don't know how the hell you lose to Vanderbilt actually away from home, but we're neither here nor there because we're on the climb, and right now they're still trying to find their way out.
Yeah, that's right. Find their way out. I don't know. They're pretty down right now. That was not a good Vanderbilt team. But the better team won that game. That's the crazy thing. And that makes me very happy. Drake, speaking of happy, tell the audience something that'll make them happy, please.
Well, folks, our friends over at BetOnline are today's title sponsor as well, because you know what? They always make us happy when you're gambling on the Willis World Cup odds, where Aaron Judge is going to be signing. Spoiler alert, I think it will be the Dodgers. But more importantly, what makes me happy is sharing with you guys the Fade Dave segment of the year of the day of the millennium. David, I got one quick odd for you, and it is obviously going to be the game this weekend. Florida State opened up as 10-point home favorites against the Swamp People. Basically, Florida is traveling to Tallahassee for a Friday game. 7:30 is Black Friday. Over-under is currently set at 57.5. So, David, what are you taking in this game?
Drake, 10 points that's adorable. We've
Cute,
got
right?
Look, we've gotten to end this year playing 5 cupcakes in a row. I don't know how the hell it turned out to be that way, but that's the reality. I can't wait to use Florida as a tune-up for our bowl game, because that's exactly what that game's going to be. 10 points isn't enough. Maybe like a backdoor cover, just like Louisiana did, because I feel like Louisiana and Florida at this point are probably comparable teams.
Who'd win the game right now, do you think?
He's at Giant Meteor. But yeah, 10 points, not nearly enough. I don't like lines like 10.5, but 10 is easy. I love that line.
Well, now it's at 9.5, so it's actually even a better odds for you. So, folks, ride with Dave, because we're not fading Dave this week. We are riding and taking us. Florida State, take him at minus 9.5 at BetOnline, because BetOnline, folks, is where the game starts. All right, Dave, we're wrapping up today's show. We'll get the last segment. Where do you want to go with this one? Do you want to do a little more hypothetical speaking, or do you want to basically talk about bowl projections or CFP, because the CFP does come out tomorrow? Where do you want to go with this?
Well, we got some stuff to talk about here about where this Florida State team is at right now. Obviously, we are ranked just outside the top 15, which I believe to be incredible and way ahead of where even not the most optimistic, but optimistic fans were. I think optimism had you at 8-4, and this is a team that, in all likelihood, should go 9-3 and probably be favored in its bowl game to have a 10-win season. What's incredible about this team, I think, is, I hate PFF at this point, but I like them when they're nice to us, and full transparency here. And they have us as the number 7 overall team right now. But that's impressive. But what's more impressive about it to me is number six on offense, and now a top 20 defense tied with Georgia. Florida State's defense tied with Georgia for its rating.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Defending champion Georgia.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah. So you have seen, we said before the year we wanted to see the defense jump into, I think, like a top 25 level, we said. Well, here we are. We've reached top 25 on defense. Adam Fuller's done his job. I think at times this year people have been rightfully frustrated, but that defense is on the right track, and it is still, even though it's top 25 and improved from an improved unit last year, the offense is still better. This is one of the nation's best offenses, truly. Passing, Florida State's ranked number 9. Rushing, Florida State's ranked number 9. So it is an evenly balanced offense right now that, like you said earlier in the show, it's just fun. Like, damn it, it's just fun. It's fun when you win, of course, but it is just also a fun offense. There's it's really hard to catch Florida State, except for like at weird times, sometime when they'll get predictable with like a running play. It's hard to know what they're going to do because they can beat you with whatever they want at this point. And the continued development of Jordan Travis, despite not being asked to do a whole lot, he's grown super efficient. Trey Benson has turned into a monster. Clearly, this offense is super favorable to running backs that want to produce 1,000-yard seasons. Because if you play 12 games in this offense and you're a star running back, you're going to run for 1,000 yards and make yourself some money in the NFL. So this offense has showcased what it needs to for recruiting. It is developed to a point where it's way ahead of the defense now, even. And this team is truly feels like a top 10 level quality team, which is something we haven't had in 8 years, right? Like, when's the last time you felt this confidently about a Florida State team? Obviously 2013, 2014, we were worried all the time. I'm really not worried if this team were to play anybody except for maybe a couple teams now that Tennessee's fallen into the sewer. Like, I don't know. Florida gives me zero pause. And that's a unique place to be in as a Florida State fan.
No, I mean, I completely agree with that. And also, like, when you say this offense is fun, another reason why I find it's fun, in addition to the reason you just listed, is that it feels like it's someone different every game, right?
Yeah.
When the first game happened for Duquesne, it was basically, we're starting to see basically how the running backs are going to be acclimated to this offense. Then you got LSU, it was the Ontario Wilson show. Then you have Louisville, where Johnny Wilson baptizes Jarvis Brownlee Jr., basically repeatedly scoring touchdowns on his ass. And then you have basically so on and so forth. Micah Pittman's showing up, Malik McClain this past weekend, Lawrence Toafili. It just feels that overall that this team, whenever someone gets their number called, they're not afraid to do it. They're tough enough to stand up with it, and they're also consistent enough to basically I will be the guy to win us this game, regardless of if my number's called or not. And basically they're stepping up to the challenge. This is a tough group of kids. This is a tough team on the offense side of the ball and the defense side of the ball, especially we saw with Fabian Love, leaving for injury, then coming back, being revitalized, and now just you're so showcasing that this team imposes their will on anybody, regardless of who it is. And I'm kind of with you there now too. There's not really many teams overall that I'd be scared of if we're on neutral site. Maybe not even. Honestly, the only one that I could think of at the top of my head for right now might be Ohio State. But other than that, I don't think so. Michigan, I think they're overrated. I took Illinois to beat them overall this past weekend. Tennessee, they let Spencer Rattler have 1,000 points on him. Yeah. And then you have LSU, who we already beat. And also, I mean, if Alabama loses their game and we win out, there's a projection that we potentially play them in the Orange Bowl down here. So you know what? I would love to see that.
You didn't mention Georgia, who I would not want to play still.
But that defense would eat our offensive line alive.
Everybody else on your list would be an interesting game for Florida State to play. And not very long ago, including during this season, no one here would have wanted to play any of those teams because we would get blown out and it'd be embarrassing. It's a lose-lose proposition. Or at least that's what we would think. There's only a couple teams in this country right now that I am positive or confident, I should say, would beat this Florida State team. It's down to 2 now, Ohio State and Georgia. So dwindling by the week. I think the most impressive thing about this team for me is the amount of turnover that happens. And you get all these portal kids in and you get young kids that are playing a lot now. And you just wonder, how's that going to affect the older kids? Are the young kids and the transfers going to ingratiate themselves quickly enough and be able to, adapt to the playbook and everything. And it feels like week to week, truly this team is getting a little better, both in terms of the parts of the team and in terms of the team itself. The chemistry, the performance, the coaching staff even is learning lessons in real time throughout the season. You can see that happening. It is as encouraging as anything I can think of in a long time at Florida State, because regardless of what happens after this offseason, who goes to the NFL, and there's going to be some kids because they've earned it. The future is bright here. The level of development that's taking place out of this roster is truly incredible, and everybody should be encouraged by that.
We have finally seen the light at the end of the tunnel after 4 years of. I mean, when we started this, you, myself, and Max, we started it basically as Noles Anonymous, a support group for Florida State fans suffering from Florida State fandom, and now we finally are able to reap the benefits of sticking out with it and basically seeing how Mike Norvell, for most of the offseason, I think you and I were kind of in the boat that we need to see at least 8 wins.
Yeah.
We said that this team can win 8, should win 7, will win 6 because we had only seen 8 wins over the past 2 seasons. Now, this weekend, FSU faces off against Florida for win number 9, and then a potential bowl game. And not like one of those Shreveport bowl games or one of the crappier bowl games, but like a decent bowl game, whether it be the Gator Bowl over in Jacksonville or even the Holiday Bowl over in San Diego. So it just feels like finally this team, like we're saying, it's fun again. It's good again, and also that basically we're on the right path, not only being where we want to go, but where we want to end up, where it basically is being back on top of the college football world.
Yeah, the climb is reaching a pretty high level right now. It's I don't know how much room there is to go up from here without kind of just working on recruiting and getting those elite kids in the program, and then developing them the same way you develop these kids. Because if you're able to, I'm not saying anything negative about our roster right now, but if you add in all kinds of 5-star talent to this roster and you're able to get through to them as a coaching staff, the way you're getting through to the kids here right now, you're going to have a playoff contending team. And this Florida State team has 3 losses, but it could easily have 1. And suddenly you'd be talking about a potential playoff team in Florida State. We're already of the quality where that conversation is not irrational. So take that and sleep easy tonight, knowing this team is well ahead of anybody in the state and well ahead where we thought this team could and would be.
And it's honestly a great feeling. And folks, we love the feeling of knowing that you come back every single day to listen to us talk about Florida State football, sports, everything in general, making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every single day. Now, David, please, as always, let the folks know how much you love them and also where to support us on the YouTube and the podcast level.
It is tough to put into words how much I love each and every one of you, because you are the ones that let us do this. Thank you for listening sincerely. And speaking of listening for the podcast, find us anywhere you find your podcast: Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, Google Play. I think we're coming to Amazon soon, so that'll be nice. For the YouTube, please do hit the like button if you like this episode, which you should, because Florida State's good at football and that's fun to listen to. Also, give us a subscribe to the channel and ding the little bell at the top, turning on your notifications. Let you know when our episodes drop. And please do leave us some comments below. We love reading them. We love responding to them, especially when there's good ones. And there have been some good ones this season. Please do it.
Please, I'll keep on love and support. And we thank each and every single one of you each and every single day for letting us do this. But with that being said, I'm not going to keep back any further. That was Dave. This was Drake. And we'll see y'all next time on Locked On Seminoles. Take care, everybody.
Florida.
Oh, wait, sorry. Florida.